Ignoring all you know about pigs and where they live and what they step in, you look at their pickled paws and say, yummy. Craving only the most daring meal, you pass up the cow tongue, skate by the head cheese, dismiss the Rocky Mountain oysters. But a pig's foot soaked in pickle juice, now that's good eating. So crack open an ice cold Bud Light, Mr. Pickled Pig's Feet Eater, because it takes guts to eat those feet. Thank you, Mr. Pickled Pig's Feet Eater. Bud Light Beer, Anheuser-Busch, St. Louis, Missouri.
Distributed by Fox Distributing, Grover Street in Shelby.
And good morning. It's time now for the Community Profile on Big O Country, WOHS, Shelby, WLON Lincoln, WCSL Cherryville, and you can listen and watch on ktcbroadcasting.com. This is Milton Baker along with co-host and executive producer Sandy Alexander. Good morning to you, Sandy.
Good morning, Milton.
So good to see you again
And
on this rainy morning.
Rainy, wet, cold morning.
One of our guests on by telephone day, we can blame the weather on him, I guess.
Yes, I need to ask Mr. Conklin about that.
So if you would, please introduce the guest we have today.
Okay, we're pleased to have Darrell Harkey with us today, and we're going to be talking to, I see a folder here I'm sure he's got a lot of good information for us.
Darrell is planning to talk. Darrell, I think you're planning to talk about some Lincoln County veterans that go all the way back to the Revolutionary War.
From Revolutionary War up through the present.
Okay.
And via phone, we have, and I'll say it, he's my favorite meteorologist, no matter what weather he calls for, Mr. Al Conklin. So we welcome him to the show.
Good morning, everyone.
Hey there, Al. Al's in the WBTV studios. Got a noon newscast to get ready for, I guess, Al.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So I can't be there live in person, but I'm fortunate enough to be in the studio here, and came down the hall, and the good folks at WBT 1110 News Talk said, "Hey, you can use this production studio." So I'm right there with you.
All right, good to have you. Good to have you with us here. We're getting Darrell set up here where he can hear you. We forgot to put a set of headphones on Darrell. Can you hear him now, Darrell?
I can hear you.
You can hear he can hear me. Okay, he can hear you then. You guys have been friends for a long time, you and Darrell.
Oh, that's true. That's true. It goes back a long way. Yep.
Still can't hear Al.
Very.
Well, I've got him turned up here.
We're doing some on-air live technical.
How about if I yell or something? I'll speak louder.
Can you hear him now, Darrell?
No.
Not hearing him at all.
We're all the way up here.
Something's turned off.
Okay.
Either that or we got to get Darrell's ears checked.
Mm-hmm. We're trying to track down the problem here, and get Darrell where he can hear you. All right.
Better?
I can't.
All right.
I don't know, sir.
We're having issues. We'll try it this way. I'll try to put Al where Dale can hear him through the Q speaker here.
There you go.
All right.
Oh, there we go.
Can everybody hear everybody now?
Everybody can hear everybody.
All right. Darrell, you tell us about your friendship with Al, how you guys got to be friends, and I know y'all have gone on some historical ventures together in the past.
Oh, yeah. Back in 93, Dan Burfoot and I went down to Charlotte and joined the Civil War Roundtable, which Al was a member. And my first seat was sitting beside Al, so we got to know each other in 93. So we've been kept in contact since 93 and talking mostly about the Civil War, which is our favorite subject, and the Brooklyn Dodgers, the old Brooklyn Dodgers, the Los Angeles Dodgers, and the New York Yankees.
That's right. Darrell's got it down straight.
Darrell told me you were a big Yankee fan.
Yeah, I grew up about 20 miles from Yankee Stadium, so I spent a lot of time in those bleachers. Back when it was $1.25 to get in, it's a little more expensive than that now.
Oh,
Yeah.
I imagine, yeah.
Yeah, just a little bit. Times have changed just a little bit. But you're not that old now, are you? That it was that cheap?
We're getting up there, but we're doing all right. But I like the Braves, too. I like baseball in general, but that's my favorite team.
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot of Yankee fans in the area, no doubt about it. Yankee fans all across the country, like us Dallas Cowboy fans all across the country.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I go back to the early '50s, and I can't get away from the Brooklyn Dodgers and the Washington Redskins.
Darrell's still hanging on to the Redskins.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, the Panthers, they were a hot team. They still can be considered a hot team, although they were a little cool last night. Didn't quite have enough to take care of business on the road down there at New Orleans.
Nope, sure didn't. So we'll have to see how they regroup here Sunday at 4 o'clock against the New York Jets.
Yeah. Well, Al, tell us about coming to WBTV. I know you'd been in North Carolina, in the Wilmington area at one time.
Yeah, I actually I've been here at this station now for a little more than 20 years. Darrell's right. We met back in '93, and I had been here just a few months. But coming from New York State, I'd worked for AccuWeather for 4 years up there in central Pennsylvania and did all kinds of major market radio in the afternoon, the WINS and KDKA and WBBM Chicago, WBZ Boston, and just decided to try something a little bit different, got into television, to really sort of take a step backwards to, sort of like a punt in football. You sometimes got to take a step backwards to move forward again, and went from there to Wilmington, and that's where I met my future wife. We were in Florida for 3 years, and then decided we kind of wanted to see the change of seasons again. So a job opened up here, a position opened here at WBTV, and we've been here ever since. So this is kind of home now. My 3 kids were born here, so I kind of doubt. We were talking last night with all that snow up there in the Northeast. My wife said she'd never go north of the Mason-Dixon line anyway. I don't think she'd go north of the Virginia line now. So I think we're pretty much set here.
Well, that's a good thing.
Well, thank you.
What got you interested really in the field of meteorology?
Well, that's kind of interesting in itself because when I talk to the school kids, I always tell them it's never too early to start thinking about what it is that you want to do. If you heads up, looking at the airplanes all the time, learn how to fly one. If you drive across a bridge and you look down and you're interested in how that got built, go figure out how they do them. And so Hurricane Agnes came through my hometown in 1972. Put about 3 feet of water in my basement. I didn't know what caused it, but I wanted to know more about it. Plus, anything that would shut down the schools, I wanted to know more about. So I kind of took a hobby as a kid and have built it into a career, just wanted to know more about, how weather works and what causes it. And there's a lot of amateur meteorologists out there, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I just decided to take it to the next step and, go get my degree in that. Been doing it ever since. I'm about 30 years into this now. I might get it right one of these days.
Well, I'm gonna ask you a question. Why are we getting all this rain, or some rain anyway? It may not be a lot of rain, but why are we stuck in this right now, Al?
Well, there's a front back to the west of us that's just stalled. Now that thing is going to get a kick jump, tomorrow, and that'll be the end of the rain for at least a few days. We'll get some sunshine, but you're right. Aside from last Friday when we broke out into that warm sunshine, we really haven't had very much in the way of sun here for about the last week or 8 days. There's been a lot of rain, but you're right. It's been more cloud cover than anything, but the rain and the drizzle, everybody's about over it.
Yes, indeed. I guess people ask you about the weather all the time.
All the time. Well, you know what? I don't worry about that too much until they stop asking. Then I probably have something wrong. There's probably something wrong then.
Oh, my goodness, yeah. Well, you're at WBTV and Charlotte. Of course, you follow a long line of legendary broadcasters at WBTV, one of which I know you and I and Darrell had the pleasure of doing a program with a couple of years ago. That's over right. At the Lincoln Studios, Mr. Doug Mays. And Doug would have liked to have been here today, but he's feeling a little under the weather, so he was not able to make it today. But of course, you've heard all the stories about the late, great Clyde McLean and all the others there at Channel 3.
Oh, I sure have. Yeah, you're right. There's a laundry list of legends that have come through this place, and I'm just proud to even have my name thrown in the same, phraseology with those guys being in the same building. But, I'm missing Doug this morning, but we just hope he feels a little bit better soon, and he'll get out and about again.
Yeah, I think he said,
Yeah.
Darrell, I believe you talked to Doug this morning. He was going to try to listen in.
He said he was going to try to listen in. He's got a touch of probably food poisoning, the doctor thinks. And the final tests are not in, but they believe it's food poisoning. Said he had lost a little weight, and he's feeling pretty weak, but his voice is still strong.
Yeah,
Well, he better get better. He's got a birthday Thursday.
Thursday, he'll be 92.
Be
Yeah.
92 on Thursday. Got to feel like eating some birthday
That's
cake and
right.
stuff. Darrell, you brought some things to talk about, historically associated there. And Al, you just jump right in anytime you have something to add to Darrell's comments. Okay.
Well, the weather is history. I've had a lot of calls about what did I know about the flood of 1916, and one lady who lived near me, I know my wife's listening. This lady asked me one time, said, "Do you remember the flood of 1916?" I said, "No, ma'am, I do not remember it. I don't even remember the flood of 1941." But we had about 24, 25 inches of rain to fall within a 24-hour period, and every bridge on the Catawba River and all the creeks except one over Leaper Creek washed away. There was no bridge left, including the one at Mount Holly. And they
Exactly right. Yeah, there was that's the state record, 26.26 inches of rain at Alta Pass, which is in Mitchell County, and it not only devastated the Catawba River Basin, but also the French Broad. So much of Asheville, downtown Asheville, was wiped out, and a lot of the river communities along the Catawba and its tributaries there, Mount Holly being one of them, just were devastated by that flood.
Yeah, they put train cars on the bridge at the trestle at Mount Holly, and hoping it would anchor it, but it washed those in, and those train cars are still in the water. And when the water's clear and low, and you're passing over in a boat, you can look down and see those some of those train cars still in the water there. They
never
took
heard
them
that.
out.
I ain't either.
Yeah,
That's pretty amazing.
That bridge in 1912 over Leaper Creek, Dutchman's Creek, it's called Leaper Creek, Dutchman's Creek, Kemp's Creek, wherever you happen to be. But that bridge was built in 1912, and it's still standing. It's still in good shape. It's just a one-lane bridge out of service.
Yeah, and I guess, talking about that flood makes people think, well, back, I can't remember exactly what month it was this year, but we had something like 9 or more inches of rain, depending on where you were at the time. And in Lincoln County, Catawba County, a lot of roads and bridges washed away, damaged by that. So
Yeah, that was in June.
Okay.
And there was a couple places there up towards Startown that had about 12 and a half inches of rain, and all that came in a 12-hour period. Most of it came in a 4-hour period.
Yeah.
Where it rained literally 2 inches an hour. That was some of the worst flooding that we've ever had around here.
Yeah, we're still trying to get bridges and roadways back open in some areas, I believe.
All right, yeah, and the weather also in '89. We had a tornado and a hurricane the same year.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that's right.
One in May and one in September. Of course, the Hugo in September and the tornado. I believe an F5, if I'm not mistaken, in the western part of the county.
It was that was one of the strongest ones on record.
Yeah, so a lot of folks, they talk about these weather events and they say, well, I've just never seen anything like this and don't recall. But then maybe they don't recall because it has been a while, like 1916 or whatever. But it has been, and it has been worse, and could be worse than what we've experienced lately.
Right. Yeah. The 1941. Of course, I wasn't born until 42, but my good friend, the late Bobby Turner, told me about the 41 flood and at Glen Mills, and had washed out a big hole there that you could have set a 2-story house down in there near the bridge, and took the bridge out.
My goodness. So the weather has played a big part in a lot of historical events, such as battles and so forth too, guys. I know I've always heard you can't fight if your gunpowder gets wet back in the very early days.
Yeah, right after Second Manassas, the Battle of Ox Hill or Chantilly, whichever you may prefer to call it, there rained about 4 or 5 inches and saved probably a couple thousand lives. All the gunpowder was wet and they couldn't fight, but it saved a lot of lives. That rain did.
Yeah. Sandy?
Well, what I find so interesting is, you read about all this in school, but when you really get in depth talking about the Civil War and about I wouldn't have thought about the gunpowder, getting wet.
Yep.
But I guess a lot of things happened then that is unpredictable, like the weather can be.
The muddy roads and the frozen roads. Armies came to a virtual standstill during the winter months. And springtime, when the roads started thawing, especially up north, the roads started thawing, and the armies got on the move, and a lot of the men went home during the winter months and came back, and some came back, but I should say most came back, and but the thawing of the roads, brought renewed battles and more battles.
And one thing about it, too, they didn't have Al out there telling them, hey, you can't do this today, it's going to rain.
They didn't have that, but no, Darrell's exactly right, and the things that we sort of take for granted today, the way that armaments are made and uniforms and whatnot, it's just it's a completely different situation. But you think about just walking down the sidewalk in Shelby or Lincolnton on a cold day, and think about at Christmas time, Washington soldiers at Valley Forge with literally rags on their feet, and and walking in snow. The sacrifices that people have made that we just don't, we can't hardly even relate to these days.
Al, tell us about your trip to Gettysburg with Darrell and some, I guess, others in the group.
That was it's going back a few years now. My men's group at Independence Hill Baptist Church, where I'm a member over in Huntersville. We decided to take a trip up to Gettysburg, and, right away I thought, I know the man that could lead that trip, and that was Darrell, and he put a real good personal, just his personal stamp and influence on that I'd say Darrell probably knows that battlefield better than he knows his backyard, and just where everything happened and how it happened, and, anybody can sort of listen to and read the monuments there, but everything that happens in between, that's the kind of stuff that Darrell knows, and it was we just had a tremendous time. It was so good to have him up there and just bring insight about his own family, fighting there against the Black Hats out of Michigan and Minnesota. It was just a tremendous time.
Yeah, Darrell, any comments on that trip?
Yeah, my grandfather was wounded there coming across the creek there by the Michigan, the Black Hats and some of the best fighters in the Union Army, and we also went by where the Conklin Rifles fought too. And,
that's right, out of New York State.
Northwoods, yes.
Yep, that's right.
The Conklin Rifles?
Conklin Rifles.
Al had a rifle named after him?
Well, that's... yeah.
Not meaning you're old, Al.
Doing genealogy, I found that most of the people with the names and the similar names or same names did have common ancestors, and most of all the folks around Lincoln that says, well, that's a different set of Dallingers or a different set of Abernathys or a different set of Ramseys or whatever. Most of them they have a common ancestor. They just don't know it.
Yeah, that's the way it is. That's the way it is with me. There's so many Bakers around, but I always say, well, now I don't think we're related, but somewhere down the line we probably, like you say, you get far enough back, we are. Yeah.
Every Hoyle that I found came from Peter Hoyle, Peter Heil, all the Hovises. We're all related, and the Ryans, the common Jacob Ryan, and all of us that's related to the Ryan family, we're all cousins, whether we admit it or whether we don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Darrell, you brought some information here about because Veterans Day just recently was observed, and you brought some information about
I had
veterans.
I was making a talk at Boger City Baptist Church, and I had got some little information about our veterans, like we had 93 during World War II to be killed from Lincoln County, and all the mothers that had sons were called Blue Star mothers. They had blue stars in the windows and on their doors, and the ones that lost were Gold Star mothers. And I recall my aunt, Betty Harkey, she had two sons. Sergeant Reuben Harkey was killed in World War II, And Ernest Harkey was killed in the Korean War. She lost 2 sons, plus she lost a brother in World War II. So she was a Gold Star mother twice over, plus she lost her brother. I haven't found any family that lost any more than 2 sons or a brother.
That is,
in the battle. And their names are inscribed on the courthouse, on the monuments, and as along with a lot of others. They just go back to the Spanish-American War, and there's no way we lost over 400 during the war between the states. Lincoln County furnished 9 full companies, 1,311 soldiers out of a population of less than 6,000. So, and over 400 of them were maimed, killed, and wounded, and came back. And even one fellow was wounded 9 times and survived.
My goodness. But he kept on.
Yeah, he came back. And in fact, Monroe Sigel came back and said that he had found he was David Coon. He was left on the Gettysburg battlefield and left dying. He come back and reported him dead, and he said some 6 months later, Coon came into Lincoln walking, and they said, "Well, Monroe Sigel reported you dead." He said, "Take more than 9 Yankee bullets to kill me."
Oh man, that was Southern stubbornness, I guess. Or
and his son went on. His son Charles Coon went on to become one of the advocates to getting away from 1- and 2-room schoolhouses, and where you had first graders and 10th graders all in the same room. And he was superintendent of Wilson County Schools, Charles Coon, and was a great educator. And his sister was I think her name was Betty, if I'm not mistaken, was the principal at Asbury when Asbury was built in July of 1929. But the whole family became educators.
Darrell, I can think of one instance, but in Lincoln County, I can think of a couple now that I'm got it on my mind. Roads or bridges that are named after veterans from Lincoln County, great servicemen, war heroes.
Yeah, one is John Reynolds, and out in Boger City.
Yeah, the bridge that goes over the 4-lane 321.
Yeah, John Reynolds was a hero, and he was the bridge over the Rhine River at Remagen. In fact, they made a movie about it, and of course, it didn't play John Reynolds, but I forgot the stars that was in the movie. But they had rigged with the bridge with explosives the Germans had, and the Americans got on the bridge and kicked the explosives off and cut them loose to keep them from blowing the bridge, so the American infantry, the American army, could get their tanks and trucks into Germany. And one German, of course, John Reynolds was shot by a sniper probably 2 or 3 weeks after all, and it's probably why John Reynolds didn't receive the Medal of Honor, because of the documentation it takes. So a lot of men would have received the Medal of Honor had there been anybody live for the documentation it takes to receive that medal. And one German officer was reported as saying if they didn't give the Medal of Honor to that man, they needed to do away with it.
And it's just amazing. The story there, I did not know. I've driven over that bridge who knows how many times. And everybody else, every time you go across that bridge, maybe you read the name John Reynolds, and they don't know the story and what this man did for his country. Yeah,
Mr. Charles Urey did a 3-part story on my first cousin, Robert L. Harkey, and here's his picture. Here's Bobby Harkey's picture. He was one of the first boots on the ground on June 6, 1944, and he was an advance scout, and he was shot 3 or 4 times, and he returned to battle one time, the first time he was shot there in D-Day, and I think in September he was shot more seriously, and he was discharged, but he received commendations of all sorts. He didn't get the Medal of Honor, but he certainly could have been possibly a candidate. There were some that were up for the medal that probably did equal or maybe less than what he did.
Now, the road in front of the VFW is named for
Jerry Crump.
And he was a Medal of Honor?
He was a Medal of Honor recipient, but he was from Rutherford County. But he moved here, his family. Yeah, and he has a
Okay.
twin brother living here, Harry Crump.
Okay. All right.
And Harry was wounded in Korea also at the same time Jerry was. And Jerry jumped on a grenade and threw his helmet on a grenade and saved the lives. And he survived. He was seriously wounded, and but he came out of it, and he was later killed in a fiery car crash on Highway 73.
Al, anything you'd like to interject there to those topics or anything else there?
Well, I was just going to say, you talked about D-Day there, and we talked about weather and how that has impacted lots of things in history. And just look at World War II in particular, in the instance of D-Day, how that clearing came. That there was a small window for that to happen, where we could come across the English Channel and strike it, at the Normandy coast. That was just a fantastic early stage forecast that those guys, had been monitoring, and for the longest time they'd been sitting and waiting and thinking the weather was never going to clear. And how weather may have changed history. When Hitler invaded the Soviet Union, they were within shouting distance of the Kremlin, and then the winter kicked in, and Hitler refused to send reinforcements with winter clothing. Those guys were out there in summer uniforms, and everything froze up solid. So, had they been a month ahead of schedule, world history could have changed. But the Soviets always knew that winter would be on their side. That was an ally for them. So you just think about in all kinds of different situations how history might have been changed had the weather not played a role one way or the other. You just can't ever tell, But it's interesting to think about it, though.
Yeah, and it's ironic we've got Al on the phone with us, and right now we're getting some of the hardest rain we've gotten over the last couple of days, Al.
I find it ironic that the other day on my Facebook page, Al, some man had went fishing, and there was a humongous fish, and I thought of you. I thought somebody ought to send that in to Al.
Yeah, we do that big catch fishing forecast every day.
Oh, yes. And
Al Harkey's been on there a few times with his catfish.
Have you?
I had a 73-pounder on not long ago.
Well, I wish I could think of the name of this thing, but honest to goodness, it was in between a goldfish and a whale. I mean, it was huge. But Al, I watch you every morning, and we've had John Carter to call in. He's a Shelby person. Mm-hmm. And Kelly Franson's called us, and Kristen Miranda's going to come in January and visit us. And I don't know if she's just wanting to come see us or because I told her I'd take her to get some barbecue.
Oh, there you go.
So another way.
Take her out to Bridges.
Yes, that was exactly the place.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping Kelly Franson can come in. And as always, you can always come.
Well, I appreciate it. We just couldn't do it today in person because, like I said, I've got to get ready for the noon broadcast here coming up pretty soon. But I wanted to at least chime in where I could and say hello to everybody again, Milton and Sandy and Darrell.
We were, like I said, we were planning to have Doug here in the studios. He wanted to come in a couple of weeks ago. I talked to him. He wanted to come in with his birthday coming up on Thursday. He wanted to come in and talk to you and Darrell especially. He wanted to be around you guys. But we wish Doug a speedy recovery from this possible
Give him a rain
case.
check.
Yeah, we sure. Oh, he's welcome as you are, and everybody. He's welcome anytime. So thank you so much. I know you've got to be running along, I'm sure, and get ready for your program at noon. So thank you for taking time out to talk to us today.
Thank you
so
much,
my pleasure.
Al.
Appreciate it all, Sandy and Milton and Darrell. We'll be talking to you and Judy soon, and just wish each and every one of you and your families a real blessed and Merry Christmas and all the best in 2014.
Well, thank you. Same to you
Thanks,
too,
Al.
Al.
All right. Y'all have a good day. Keep dry.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, Al Conklin, our guest, live from the studios at WBT in Charlotte. They let him use a studio down there to talk to us via telephone with. And again, happy birthday to Doug Mays, who'll be 92 on
buddy.
Thursday.
Happy birthday.
Maybe we can, if he's feeling a little more spry on Thursday, just get him on the phone briefly on Thursday and say something to him on his birthday there.
And we were both born in December.
Yeah,
Just a few years
your
apart.
birthday's coming up the 19th.
The 19th.
19th. So and Sandy will be 92 also, and I got that look, Darrell.
And I'll be 72 soon.
72 soon. I'm 52 now.
Well, let's see. Mr. Doug, he'll be 92.
Doug will be 92.
Okay, he's 32 years older than what I'm
And just 40 years older than me.
And we got time for one more quick story.
Sure, absolutely, Darrell.
Okay, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about. We were talking about the weather, and going back to the Revolutionary War period. George Washington's army was set to attack the British Army in Trenton, New Jersey, and he was on the Pennsylvania side of the Delaware River. And on Christmas Day, he had made plans to cross the river. Of course, it was snowing and sleeting, and the river was half frozen, chunks of ice in it. And there was a young man, a young black kid, named Jocko Graves. And Jocko Graves had already become a groomsman. A groomsman was a man who had knew how to take care of horses. He had, he would brush the horses down and feed them and water them, and he knew exactly what to do, at that young age. And he was wanting to fight with George Washington. And General Washington told him, said, "Son, you're just too young. You're just too small." He was only a short lad. And but he said, "There's got to be something I could do." So when Washington had the horses, he rode the horses up to the Delaware River to get in the boats. He said, "You can hold our horses for us." And so the young Jocko Graves held the horses, and Washington's army got into their boats and they crossed the Delaware, and at Christmas night, they defeated those Hessian soldiers. They were all drunk and partying and all, and it was a great victory for George Washington. When the battle was over, George Washington recrossed the Delaware and came back and couldn't find the young man. All he could find was just like a stump, and but the horses were there, and when they cleared the snow and ice away, that stump turned out to be Jocko Graves, and he had frozen to death. Holding those horses, that 12-year-old kid. Washington was so moved by this that when he became president, he had Congress to commission the money for a statue of Jocko Graves, the faithful groomsman. And he took a statue, a bronze statue, and today at Mount Vernon, as you look at Mount Vernon on the left, there is a statue of Jocko Graves holding a lantern called the Faithful Groomsman. Now, this evolved later into a little black kid in people's yards holding a lantern, and it became a racial statement to some people.
Yeah.
Now, there was nothing racial behind this. This was an honor that Washington had bestowed upon this Jocko Graves. So when you see this little black kid, a statue in people's yards, that is a statue of Jocko Graves and the courage he had, and he gave his life holding those horses. But there's nothing racial about that. That is an honor.
Yeah.
And that was Washington's way of honoring.
12 years old.
12 years old.
And the president
and
asked him to hold those horses, and he held them till he died.
And stood there even in death. He was holding those horses.
Isn't that amazing?
And when you visit Mount Vernon, if you'll look as you face it, there is Jocko Graves with the lantern. Now I know people's put fishing poles in their hands and other things, and stuff. But it was a lantern and holding the horses and the light. It's still there on Mount Vernon today.
I didn't know the background.
I didn't either. Thank you,
Darrell. It's so good to see you, my friend. And again, we're just sorry Doug couldn't be here in person to talk with you and Al. I know he really, really wanted to be, and he was very sorry he couldn't be here today. But we'll all wish him a happy birthday on Thursday, 92 years old. Darrell, thanks for coming in, my friend.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Darrell.
Thank you so much.
And Merry Christmas to you and all your family.
Yeah.
And we'll do this again sometime.
Very good.
Sure will.
All right. And our thanks to Al Conklin from Channel 3, our guest here
Absolutely.
today.
We like some Al.
Yep. All right, Sandy. And how about telling us about the rest of the week? Are we still pending on tomorrow?
We're pending on tomorrow, and I'm waiting on a phone call from a mutual friend for Wednesday.
Okay, so we got a couple shows pinned. This time of year, it's hard.
Yeah,
Getting closer and closer to Christmas.
A lot of people are really busy and got various things to do. So,
And,
I remembered last year, December, it was kind of rough.
Let's tell the folks what you are going to do. A couple of things on the 17th of December. It's a Tuesday. After we finish our program that day, you're going to go with me down to Memory Lane Antiques and Finds. You're going to bring your CDs.
I am.
And you're working on getting a keyboard down there to play a little music for the folks.
I'm trying. I've got several people helping me do that. So, yes, I will be at Memory Lane, and I'm going to bring a bunch of CDs with me and stay there a few hours. And my thing is I really loved and want to meet the people that I talk to various times here, and I look so forward to meeting them and saying I'm so and so. And
already sold some of the CDs down at the store, and anybody that bought one that wasn't already signed, you can come back and you'll sign it.
Absolutely.
Or if you bought one that was signed, and you just want to come back and meet Sandy and hear her play some. Hopefully we'll be able to do that on the 17th. Now on Christmas Eve, which is a Tuesday, the Christmas Eve morning show, we probably won't have a live guest in the studio that day, right? But we've talked about replaying a very, very popular program. We've already played it live and played it on recording, rebroadcast one time. We'll probably do it a third time. Christmas Eve, we'll probably replay the interview with Eustace Conway. From the mountains of North Carolina. The Mountain Man.
And I did tell you how much the knife finally reached. He talked about on the when we interviewed him to make money. Darrell, his partner that helps him up there on the preserve, he took his knife off his waist and said, "Well, we'll just sell this." And they started the bid at $150. And the last I looked, it was $888.
About that.
So I'm glad. I know that pleased him.
Yeah, I went to school with him at Gaston College.
With Eustace? Yeah. Oh, okay. You met. Yeah, Eustace did go to Gaston.
One of my professors used to go up there, and he took his kids, and he said that, and I never heard this term used in the way that Ben Burry was his name, the professor's name. He said he had a vernacular education, and that knew how to do. And I said, well, I've got a son who's a barber in Lincoln, Doug. His name's Doug also, and he's got an education too, but he's got a vernacular education too, because he can take anything and make something out of it, of any animal, wild animal or something. But he has a vernacular education.
There you go. All right. Well, he's quite an interesting guy, Eustace Conway. So we're going to replay that interview with Eustace probably Christmas Eve morning, unless Santa Claus or somebody comes by.
Yes.
And then maybe sometime in early 2014, we're keeping our fingers crossed that Eustace is going to stop by the studios here.
And I've got a pretty good feeling that's going to happen.
All right. Very good.
And also the Pam Stone, who used to play Judy on the Coach series, she's going to be here. And we just got Shay Smith, who sings with the Chuck Wagon Gang.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of listeners remember the Chuck Wagon Gang.
Yeah.
They're a gospel music group, but they're like 100 years old. I mean, they've been singing forever.
Yeah.
And their great-great-granddaughter, I believe, is who she is.
And I heard you say something about Darren and Brooke. We're still working on
Darren and Brooke.
Yeah,
yes.
Darren Brooke Aldridge to come in. To recap a recent guest, Travis Powell. He had his Elvis tribute concert Saturday night.
Saturday night. Unfortunately, I didn't get to go, but I heard it was a sold-out, huge success.
I heard Calvin talking to some folks this morning on the radio. Heard him talking to Blanche down in Gastonia about that, and she was telling us what a fabulous show it was.
I'm sure it was.
Yeah. And so there you go. All right, folks, we thank you for listening in today, and we will have somebody here tomorrow.
We sure will.
We're still working on gathering a guest, trying to get in touch with. We know someone we're trying to get in touch with is trying to get in touch with them. So thank you for listening in today. Our thanks to WTV meteorologist Al Conklin and to Lincoln County historian Darrell Harkey for being with us today. Thank you, Darrell.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
Morning,
You make my morning.
noon,
Well, I'm at work.
and night.
The way home from work.
The one you can count on for fun.
Big O Country, WOHS Shelby, WLON Lincoln, WCSL Cherville Gastonia.
If you're running low on